I'm Eva-Marie Muller-Stuler. I'm Chief Data Scientist for IBM in MEA in the Center of Excellence. My talk today is going to be about how to bring AI, which is the topic of the season, basically, of the decade, into your organization, and how to turn your financial organization into an AI-driven business. The first question that I have is, what makes it so special? Why is it at the moment so exciting, and what is different to before? The main thing that had changed in the last few years is that it's absolutely specific, that we can deliver measurable, impactful, and actionable results. By that, I mean, before that, you were able to say you have 3% of fraud in your company. Now you're actually able to say, this person is going to be a fraudster tomorrow, or this transaction is fraudulent. Or you can say Eva is going to win the lottery. She's going to have 50 million liras on her bank account tomorrow. She's going shopping like crazy. She's going to spend lots of money on champagne. She's going to travel around the world and hit her credit card really, really high. For your financial institution, that means you have to be prepared for all that transaction. You have to be prepared that the credit card transaction will not be cancelled, that you have the ATMs close to my favorite shopping mall stocked, and that the online payments for travels are actually not fraudulent. Otherwise, I'll be an upset customer and I'll be leaving you. It is not optional anymore. A lot of people say, oh, AI is something interesting. No, it's not something interesting anymore. If you now have the choice between being the leader in the field or to try to play catch-up. If you decide to try to play catch-up, good luck. You risk losing your customers, your employee, and your complete business. The most amazing thing is will really change the world we're living in, and it will affect everyone. I spoke to one of the world leading bank recently, and they're planning to reduce their middle office by 90%. That means it will affect 45,000 people. And it will affect a lot of different jobs. It will be drivers and so on. So as a society, we have to ask ourselves, how do we want to deal with it? How will it change the way we're living? It could be that we have Fridays off. It could be that we have Tuesday to Friday off. And there's no way around it, and everyone will feel it and see it. So I think most companies today has already got aware of it. And if we look at the numbers, we see that 2/3 of all outperforming companies have already appointed CDOs. Having said that, also about so in 2019, we see that number actually going up to 90% of all organizations. Having said that, we see 50% of all organizations expecting their CDO to fail within the first 2 years. And for you as an organization or as CDOs is the question, how do I prevent myself from being in that role? What do I have to do to make sure that we are not failing? The main question is always, what is your business? Data scientists, we all run into the danger of chasing the cool or to build crazy algorithms and everything, but to completely forget what is the business. And with that, you'll always find interesting correlation. You find that people drown when they eat ice cream, which is not true. The underlying fact is the temperature. So, and if you're a bank, it has nothing to do with your business. So be clear that everything you do is aligned to your KPIs. And the question you have to ask yourself as a CDO with every step you take is, does it increase your revenue? Does it decrease your cost? Or does it optimize your risk? And if it doesn't, don't look at it. You're not a university, it's not academic what you do, and you're not a charity. You're there to do business. The next step is, how do you set up the perfect team? Who do you hire? And I get a lot of requests saying, which are the top universities? Who do I find somebody who can do Python, R, SQL, all the tools out there and has all the industry knowledge? Please stop looking for the unicorn. It's a bit like asking for a doctor who's a GP, a brain surgeon, an orthopedic, a pediatrician, and a psychiatrist in one person. There are different roles, and I would like you to split them. So, for example, one of the roles I see is the data architect. He's the guy in charge of working closely together with the information infrastructure, who's there to engineer with the feature and to develop, to process the signal into usable features that feed into your model. And that is a really important step that is often forgotten. Don't be lazy on your data and on your data engineering. The middle step is then the data modeler or the data scientist who then uses that data of good quality and puts it through the model. And the last one, which I hardly ever see and which I absolutely love, is the data communicator or the data artist. And his role is to basically take the outcome and feed them back to the business and bring it back into a business language that the CEO and the CDO can actually act on it. The next step is, where are you actually on your journey? And where do you want to go to? We all know there are 4 critical types of the analytic journey. And we see the better your capabilities, the higher is the value for your business. We have 4 different steps. The first one we would call is a descriptive in what happened. The next one is a diagnostic step, which says, why did it happen? We then move on to the future, predictive, what will happen? And prescriptive, how do we act on that? Most companies we see are somewhere between descriptive and diagnostic and are struggling to move up the ladder into predictive. Most companies have already invested lots of money in amazing dashboards, but and acting on what they see in their dashboards. But the big problem with that, and why they're struggling to move forward, is there's actually a lot of issues in the data. We see missing data, we see incorrect data, we see misleading data and misrepresented data. And that is the data you act on to form your strategy. So you do have to be clear on your data governance and on your data quality. Unless you have good data, you will not have good outcomes. In data science, I think most people already heard the famous quote, more data beats clever algorithms, but better data always beats more data. On that, I will talk about 2 use cases. One of them is a typical case of credit card fraud protection. The annual losses on credit card fraud in 2015 were nearly 22 billion US dollars. And over 72% of these losses have to be covered by the card issuers or merchants. In that use case, we worked together with one of the world's leaders credit card processors, and we used that data and used outside data, we used natural language processing, so we used better algorithms, but we also made sure we really worked hard on the data and generated lots and lots of new different features out of that. And we were actually able to get an 89% lift on the existing model, which then would mean just for the US and UK corridor would be another $22 million saving per year. The other use case that I'd like to talk about is a use case of cross-selling and how to predict the likelihood of somebody who's taking out a mortgage. We've done that for one of the largest retailing banks in Australia. The problem they were facing is due to the low interest rates, they were facing a big drop in the revenue due to created by their clients. The problem with cross-selling is you cannot call your customer every single day or every hour and trying to sell him everything else. So you have the cost of the lost calls, but you also have the cost of the cross-selling them something that they really want. And people get annoyed and don't feel, what I like to say, they don't feel personally loved if you contact them for the wrong products. They're going to call you and say, actually, do you see who I am? Do you care who I am? Then don't contact me, I'll move to a different bank. In this use case, we used the client data, but we also used what we like to say, we explored the data universe. We looked at data outside the bank and pulled that in. And by using that, we were able to double their response rate in just 4 weeks, just on a simple POC saying, okay, we use more data, we work hard on the data, we engineer the data, we come up with new features that you haven't seen before. And from that, we move forward. And I think that's an important thing. If you see data that your competitors are not seeing, if you see signals that your competitors are not seeing, you'll be able to outperform them. In IBM, we always like to say there's no AI without IA, and IA stands for Information Infrastructure. So rounding it all up, we would say, start with a business question, focus on the business, what are you here to do, what are you here to generate? And then build from there and build up the steps. Go to AI, then go down to machine learning, go down to analytics, have a clear data infrastructure, data quality, data governance, and then a good IT infrastructure to support all that steps. The thing that you might have noticed that I didn't mention, which I find most uninteresting, is what tools to use, what programming language to use. Or not what tool, what programming language. Because in the end, data scientists are so spoiled, they will not be flexible. They say, I bring in my R, I bring in Python, I bring in this skill set, and the business has to just adjust to that. But if you get these steps right, I'm sure you'll be successful, and I'm sure you'll have an amazing future in outperforming the competition. Thank you very much.